Just so you know, if I get too close to you, Jayme didn't punch me in the lip. I got hit by a racket the other day in racquetball, so...
During the middle of Mercy Marriage, he comes home with a busted lip.
I thought I'd have a big old fat lip today. But it was a racket. It wasn't her, I promise. We're good, really. Or if she...
I didn't have a racket, no. Good question, though.
Did she have the racket? Oh, that's funny. Yeah, by the way, we play racquetball together. Yeah, that's great. She only tells you once, and then you're in trouble, right? So we want to talk about that today. Welcome to Mercy Marriage. If you haven't been here yet, welcome to Lifeway Church. I'm Pastor Jason. Like we said, this is my wife, Jayme. I'm so glad you're in the house here today. And, you know, we come from all walks of life. If you're in this place today and you feel far from God, if you feel like that relationship has been strained or things are just not where you'd want them to be with God, I just want to tell you, you're in the right place. We exist for that. We exist to help people who are far from God come back and realize what He's really saying to them and about them. And so if you feel like you're in that place today, you're with a bunch of people that are. And you're with a bunch of people that could out-sin you 10-1. And so I just want you to know you're in a good place today, and I'm glad you're here if that's you. We got some good stuff to share today, and I am really excited about this. And so are you ready?
I'm ready.
Today we're going to talk about what do you expect? What do you expect? What do you expect? How many times have you expected something, but no one knew about it? How many times have you expected something and nobody knew about it? And because of that, you're frustrated, they're clueless, and you're in a fight trying to get your need filled. You expect something, nobody knows about it, you're frustrated, they're clueless, and you're trying to get your need filled. We want to talk today about communicating expectations. How do we communicate our expectations? And I believe this is really going to help us today. See, we have these expectations that we've been learning come out of our needs place. The place of our greatest need is where we build expectations. But the problem is that we create a story kind of in our mind how these things are going to go or how these things are going to look, and then what happens when it doesn't turn out that way. That's what we've been talking a lot about. We've really been trying to unravel that moment, or maybe that feels like a consistent lifestyle for you. These things that I have prepared that aren't happening the way I hoped. And so because of that, we started Mercy Marriage. And the goal for Mercy Marriage is that we would be a people that would have mercy saturating our relationships. I mean, just think about that for a second. Imagine your marriage saturated in mercy. Wouldn't that be awesome? I mean, saturated, where it is the place you could fail. It's the place you could come and share your weakness and get strength. I mean, saturated in mercy. That's what our hope is. And also this, imagine how joyful you would be if you would give mercy. Imagine how joyful of a person you would be if you would give people mercy, if you would be merciful. You might not know it, but it is where joy comes from. It feels really good to be merciful for people. And so that's our hope, to try to create these places where our marriages are saturated in mercy. And so let's dive in today. So you expect something, but do you communicate it? You expect something, but do you communicate it? And if so, is your way of communicating effective? So we've kind of come to the place where we realize we're all expecting something. We all have this idea. Even coming here today, you had an idea, you had an expectation of what was going to happen. Maybe it's been met, maybe it hasn't. Everything we do, we have a story in our mind of what it's going to look like. But here's the thing we want to talk about today. Do you know how to communicate that expectation? And have you tried? And if you're trying to, is it effective? Is it working? I mean, I think that matters, doesn't it? Can I communicate what I'm expecting? And so if we don't learn how to communicate effectively, then everyone around us is frustrated and our need still is not met. And that's probably a lot of us today. Because I know this about you and I, that we have needs that sometimes we just don't know how to get out of our mouth. I see it here, but I'm not figuring out how to communicate it to you. I can't figure out how to say it so that you'll get it or that you can team up with me and actually help me in this. It's a horrible place to have a need and not be able to communicate it. And I think for many people, we're in this because we just don't know how to put words to what we need, or maybe we've never even been in a place where we could put words to what we need. Maybe some of you even grew up in a place that made no sense. You grew up in a household. You grew up with a parent that said things that made no sense. That's a horrible place to be. Like, not only do I don't know how to communicate, no one ever taught me how to communicate. Let me help you with this. Roll film, if you would. This might help us out.
Phrases. My mom used to use phrases. I didn't know what she was talking about half the time. I want you to clean up this room, every nook and cranny. Every nook. What is the cranny? Give me some more. What's a nook? I don't know what that is either, you crazy lady. Is my nook dirtier than my cranny? Well, your nook is fine, but your cranny's filthy. Clean it up now. Clean it up. Pronto. Pronto. My mom is awesome, though. See, all she cared about, it's still this day, all she cares about if I have eaten. That's all she cares about. Have you eaten? Have you eaten, son? You look terrible. You look like a freak. You look terrible. Do you need something to eat? Have you eaten? I remember one night, it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. I was in high school. I came home too late. You know, it's dark. You ever do that? You're sneaking in the house. It's just pitch black. So I go in the kitchen, you know, and I turn on the, garbage disposal. Why did they put that stupid garbage disposal thing right by the light? I was expecting a nice warm light. I get, oh, she was on me like a panther. Where were you? I was worried sick. You could have gotten hurt. Have you eaten? Have you eaten? Like, I don't know what gallivanting means. Didn't want me doing that. Don't you go gallivanting around. Okay. Stop it, you're gallivanting. I told you not to do this. My friends are like, where are you going on vacation? I think we're going to Tarnation. Yeah. Mom's going to blast us there in the middle of next week, she said. Don't lollygag. That sounds like you're choking on a sucker. I'm lollygagging. Sometimes parents, we just fail at advice. I remember my mom when I was a kid. She used to give me good advice too late. Think about it. Good advice too late. Like when I was a kid, I hit my head on the corner of the table. Careful! Moms are a big help when you lose something, aren't they? You ever lose something? Your mom is just not a help at all. Hey, Mom, I can't find my wallet. Well, it's gotta be somewhere. It's like, that's good. I thought I was going crazy for a minute. I thought I was looking for something that didn't exist. Thank you. And then they go, where'd you leave it last? You're good. Thanks, Captain Obvious. I was on a totally different track. I was looking where I left it first.
I think I've said a bunch of those. Oh, man, my dad used to have this term, and I still don't get it. And just 2 years ago, I was changing the transmission pan under my truck, and I broke a bolt. And I said, for crying out loud! I don't know where that comes from. It doesn't even make any sense. What is for crying out loud? That's what that was my dad's line, for crying out loud, for crying out loud. I said it a while back, and I thought, oh, no, I've inherited that. See, we've learned these ways of communicating that don't even make sense. it's like, I don't get what this is doing for you or I. And so we want to try to help with that today. And this is the first step. The first step is learning to recognize what you're expecting. Learning to recognize what you're expecting. See, maybe you're expecting something, but you've never even stopped to recognize, what am I expecting? Like, what am I hoping is going to happen? And so our first step is to stop and just think for a moment, what am I expecting? Because we do this all the time. We're expecting something, but we've never stopped to think about what that is. What is it that I'm expecting? That's the first step. Ask yourself, what do I think is going to happen? What do I think is going to happen? That's personal inventory in marriage, so I can start to communicate what I'm expecting. What do I think is going to happen? See, what we did is we've come from this place where we realize that all of us have these expectations. And when we get in arguments, it's not a matter of right and wrong, it's a matter of difference. We both have a different expectations. And so we talked about this fact that we all have expectations. And then the next week we talked about the fact that you need to manage those expectations because they're not going to happen. They're not going to go the way you thought. It's not going to end up like you hoped. And so in that moment, how do I manage that moment? How do I manage that expectation in a realistic way? And then today we want to talk about, how do I communicate it? How do I help communicate what I'm thinking? And so there's two parts to a great relationship. The first one is, how do I treat someone? The first part to a great relationship is, how do I treat someone? But the second part of that relationship is learning to communicate how I want to be treated, which I think is where most people fail, or where we fall short, or where we live in this place of unknown. That I don't even know what you want, but you want me to know what you want. And it's such an awkward place to be.
Yeah, and he truly doesn't know what I think. Sometimes I think he does,
Right.
but he doesn't.
Preach
I
it.
shared the story the other night, but I don't love fresh flowers. It's just not my thing. Like I shared, I'm a receipt gal, so I look at the receipt and I see how much the flowers cost with the delivery. And he did that early in our marriage. He had flowers sent to me, and I was like, it's not my thing. It's just not what I love. But I had never communicated that to him, and he would assume, as probably most men would, that that would be a really nice thing to do for your wife. But I didn't love it. But without me sharing that with him, how would he know?
Right. And so you didn't like that receipt.
No.
It's too much. I spent
It was nice. It was a nice gesture.
spent too much on flowers. Bzz, bzz, has to be communicated. And so I thought, you know what? No, she doesn't know herself. She really does like flowers. She just doesn't want me to spend a lot of money on them. So I pulled over in the ditch one day because there was these beautiful purple flowers. And so I picked a bunch of them and stuck them on the table for her and left. And that day when she comes home or she gets into the kitchen, it's filled with ants all over the table. And she's like, where'd the flowers come from? And me. Where'd the ants come from? Yeah, she hates flowers. So we don't do that anymore. It's been communicated. No flowers. And I kind of like that now. And so it's learning to communicate. Learning to communicate our need with mercy. Can you communicate your expectation with mercy? Not rude, not demeaning, not in a place. Let me just help you for a second. Write this down if you got notes. You don't need to defeat somebody to be right. You don't need to defeat someone, demean someone to be right. You don't need to defeat someone to get your way across.
Yeah, I don't need to demoralize him or put him down. I don't need to nag. I don't need to be bossy. And just like we have learned to tell our kids, like, use your words, I have to tell myself that sometimes. Like, use your words, be an adult, and be respectful with the way that I communicate.
Right. You know, momentum, to get momentum in your marriage comes when you can start using your words with kindness. You'd be shocked what would happen if you would just add kindness to your words, if you would add kindness to your expectation. If you could start to lead with kindness, you'd be shocked even just there how much momentum that will start to create inside of marriage, communicating our expectations. And so here's a little challenge for you. How many times have you tried to communicate your expectation without words? Oh, I know this about you and me. I know this about you and me. We try to communicate without words, and I don't know why.
Chris Hogan, he's with Dave Ramsey. He had a quote on Facebook the other day that said, an expectation that isn't communicated is just a thought. And so sometimes I think
Right.
that I communicate it because I've thought it. I think that it's communicated, or I think that he would assume, which is the lowest form of knowledge.
Right.
But it doesn't always happen like that.
Yeah, and so how many times are we hoping someone will do something out of our thought? I have this expectation of you or this or that, but we don't say anything about it, so it just remains a thought. And that's where frustration comes from. See, if you communicate too late, then you insinuate. If you communicate too late, if you forget to communicate, then you'll start to insinuate. And I think this is where we can find a lot of ourselves, in this place of insinuating. Here's what insinuating is. It's to suggest or hint, listen to this word, artfully, to instill something in someone's mind. Man, I think we get stuck in this, folks. I really do. We try to insert something in an artful way without saying anything, insinuating.
So one way at home, it's a phrase that we have. It's called a question statement. And I'll say, is that a question or is that a statement? I like, hey, are you wanting to go to Starbucks tonight? Are you wanting to go do this or that? Are you saying that, or are you really asking me if I want to? Is that what you want to do, or is that a question statement?
Yeah. Like, how many times have you asked your spouse if they want Starbucks because you want it, and they say no, and so they don't go, and then you're mad? Well, you didn't tell them you wanted it. You asked them if they wanted it, thinking that that's how you would get there. Why do we do this? It's called insinuating. It's called insinuate. Here's one maybe. Supper gets done, dinner's over, there's all this stuff to do, and you're in the kitchen cleaning, and maybe he's on the couch watching something. And you want help. I want help in the kitchen. We used to use ping pong for that. But anyway, I want help. And so rather than just saying, hey, would you mind helping? You start to insinuate. And so maybe you bang the pots and pans a little bit. Do dishes a little bit louder, or maybe you slam some cabinet doors, or maybe there's some loud sighs and grunts out there coming from the kitchen. I'm artfully trying to get something in your mind. And so that doesn't work, so you think, you know what, I'm going to grab the vacuum and vacuum right now during the game. Here's the problem, ladies, and you might not know this, but if a man lifts his feet up over your vacuum, he thinks he hung the moon. He actually thinks he helped clean the living room for you, with you. We really do. We're like, that's right, baby, I got you anytime you need. Insinuating doesn't work. It doesn't work, but we find ourselves in this place where we're trying to communicate our need without words, and we find ourselves living in that place. Here's one maybe. Maybe you got home and you're snuggled up on the couch, and you just have this idea that maybe your husband would walk in and just snuggle you. Just some unsexual touching. Your wife loves that, man. Just love me. Just all you need is love. Just love me. I want snuggled. And he walks in the house and doesn't even pay any attention to it. Walks in, goes right to the back room, puts on some comfortable clothes, and comes and says, hey. Not even a clue. Listen, here's the reality. He's clueless to it. But since you didn't get what you were hoping for, the expectation, now you're going to give him the silent treatment.
So really, he is clueless, and we talked about
Right.
that. He's not out to get me when that happens. I just need to learn to communicate. Our expectations need to be communicated. How would he
Right.
know without me telling him? And it seems so common sense, but this is the holdup that we hear about all the time. This has been holdups in our marriage. Like, it really needs to be communicated. So when we fail to communicate, we tend to whine, we tend to nag, and worst of all, well, insinuate, but worst of all, we could get to a point of manipulation.
Yes, and that's a serious one. So if insinuating doesn't work, if it's not getting across by me somehow artfully putting things in your mind to get you to do something, then I get to the place where I manipulate. And manipulation means to manage the moment or to manage the circumstance. And so now insinuating doesn't work. You're not picking up on my artsy creativity. And so I'll start to manipulate. And this is dangerous. Manipulate means to manage the situation for a desired outcome, which would really, we've been learning this, would really mean that you are convinced only by your expectation. You are convinced by your own perspective. You don't care what theirs is. You're just convinced by your own. And so I'm going to manipulate the situation to get my perspective in play. I'm going to do whatever it takes to make sure that what I want comes to pass. And we do this. We use words for this sometimes. Some of y'all might use 4-letter words to make this happen. Like, I'm fine. It's an F word in the marriage. Fine. Don't use that word. How are you? Fine. Just fine. 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 Manipulating. Here's one. So we'll display frustration. We'll display sadness. We'll display anger in hopes that they'll say, what's wrong? And then what do we answer? Nothing. Nothing. Oh, okay. And then you're more mad. Okay, you just did all this work. You did all this work to get them to ask you, what's wrong? And then you answer, nothing. I do this too. I'm not, why do we do this? Because we don't know how to communicate. We've never learned how to communicate. And so we use, we insinuate, we manipulate, we try to get our way across without just communicating. Here's where I'm at. Here's what I need. Here's where I could use some help. And so to not communicate to somebody in your life is unfair. It's just unfair. To not let people know where you're at. And we really want to help with this, especially in marriage. It's a big deal.
Like we've said over and over again, we're on the same team. We have the same jersey. We're on the same team. Same jersey, same team. And when I think of that, I think of like a football team. If there was a coach that had a huddle and everybody that's going to be in the next play is in on that huddle to find out what's going on, except one person's excluded. One person doesn't get to be in on it, but they're expected to know what's going on in that play. And it's ridiculous. It's absurd. They're not going to know, and nobody wins. The team doesn't win that way. And so you have to look back and realize, oh, yeah, we're on the same team.
Right. And we don't want any marriages to look like that, where you feel like you're the one left out of the huddle. Like, why don't I know what's going on around here? Right? Like one dad said, I feel like a T-ball coach, or I feel like a catcher in T-ball. I think Tim Hawkins pulled that out. I think that's hilarious. Why? Because I was never communicated to. I wasn't brought in on the huddle. And so write this down if you're taking notes. People deserve to hear your need communicated before they get your attitude. People deserve to hear your need communicated before they get your attitude. And a lot of times we'll give people our attitude before we'll ever tell them where we're at or what we're needing or what our expectation is. They just get attitude, and it's like, what's up? They deserve to hear the need before they get your attitude. And I want to help you with something. I love finding the root cause to things. It's something about in me. I don't know why. When I can find what's the root, what's the single root that causes this, I just kind of get like, I love that. And I can give you this, and I'm very confident in this, that most of your arguments in marriage hinder or come around no communication. Almost every argument that you've been in, you could link it back to, well, it was a miscommunication, or it was a no communication, or it was a manipulation, or it was an insinuation. Most arguments are around no communication.
So a couple of years ago, I sent Jason to the grocery store. He does not do the grocery shopping, and he does not do the cooking. It's just not his thing, so that's what I do. But I love cauliflower, and there was cauliflower on sale at Safeway, and I wanted him to go get me some. So I wrote a list, and I wrote cauliflower times 15. And so gave him the list. He goes to Safeway, and my assumption was he would get 15 bags of frozen cauliflower because that's what I knew was on sale. But he didn't know that, so he goes and buys 15 heads of fresh cauliflower. And comes home, and he's unloading the groceries, and he said, hey, where do you want all this cauliflower? I'm like, in the freezer? Yeah. So he puts 15 heads of fresh cauliflower in the freezer. So I go out that night to get something out of the freezer, and I opened it up like, whoa, what just happened in here? Like, this is crazy.
They thawed out.
Yes. And so we just learned when I sent him to the grocery store yesterday, he went to Walmart for me. I needed some half and half, so I took a picture of the half and half. Here's the brand, here's the ounces, and it's setting him up to win. And so he can go to the grocery store, he can win, and when he wins, we win as a team.
Right.
But we learned that in no matter what it is, even though I think he might know, there's certain things I want certain brands of, and if I don't communicate that, he'll get the wrong brand. So we have to Always set each other up to win. And it's funny and it's a funny story, but those are the things that I really think make marriage. It's not the big things. And if we can learn to communicate in the small things, the big things will come naturally, or we can tackle the big things. But if we never learn to communicate in the little things, when the big things come, then there's trouble.
Right. I remember the lady at the store, the checkout was like, wow, you like cauliflower? And I'm like, yep, she does.
So that's just a good question. Am I setting my spouse up to win?
Right, and she really does. Like, it's a horrible feeling for me to be standing in the aisle not knowing if she wanted Great Value or brand, or if she believes it's butter or not. I don't know if she believes it's butter or not, but I can't believe it's not butter. Like, I don't know which one to grab, and it just puts you in a place, very uncomfortable spot, where you just don't want to help in that area anymore. It's like, I don't want to help you. I don't like that. But when she sets me up to win, I got this. Right? So we need to be setting each other up to win. And so here's what true communication does. True communication leads to unity. If you're really communicating, it will lead to unity, which I like the word even, you and I tie, and use first, right? If you put you first, it's I nutty. You don't want to be in that spot. No, you and I tie. We come together. True communication leads to unity, where we're on the same team. And I want you to get this today, folks. If you want your spouse's heart, you got to learn how to speak to it. If you want your spouse's heart in life and in marriage, you got to learn how to speak to it. And communication links you together. It leads you to unity. Communication inside of a relationship is like oxygen to life. And without it, it dies. Without it, your relationship will die. Communication is the lifeblood to relationship. See, it's used to strengthen your bond against outside forces. Here's what I love about communication. Communication links Jayme and I up together to take on whatever's facing us. Every one of us have outside forces that show up in our marriage, in our lives. All of a sudden, just something pops up, and it's like, what is this? And where did it come from, and why is it here? Well, communication links us together to face that thing. See, what usually happens is something will pop up and couples will turn against each other and start fighting about whose fault that is. That's here because of you. No, that's here because of you. No, that's here because you and yin and then, and we're facing this way, tearing each other apart, rather than facing the outside force, tearing it apart, or determining how are we going to win against this thing? How are we going to use your strengths and your perspectives and my strength and my perspectives to tackle that thing that's coming against us? Communication links you together to take on whatever's coming at you. See, it's so much more than talking. Well, we talk. That's not communication. Communication is strategy. It's strategy. It's preparation for what's to come. If you have communication in your marriage, then you strategize around, what are we doing with our money? What are we doing with our kids? What are we doing with our family? What are we doing with our home? What are we doing with our daughter that's turning 12, about to be 20? Like, what are we doing with this? What schools are we going to? What are we doing about church? How do we worship? How do we believe? We have strategy. And Jayme and I try to strategize out as far as we possibly can. We never get it right, but we work on it. Do you know why? So that in whatever area wants to show up, we start like this. We start linked, because if we don't start linked, we'll end up devouring. We'll end up blaming, insinuating, manipulating, because those moments freak you out. Those moments are scary because things just pop up and it's like, what is that? Well, we want to be linked in those moments.
It's like a game plan where everybody's on the same page.
Right.
Everybody knows the play. Everybody knows what we're doing, including the kids. We're on the same plan. It's a game plan.
I like that. The greatest thing you have in marriage is the power of agreement. And I would go as far as, this might sound a little over spiritual, but I'd go as far as to say this: the thing Satan hates about marriage is the power of agreement. The Bible says this: where two or more agree, it's done. It's done. Your power's there. And so when we can communicate, we get into agreement, and then we have power. Now we're a powerful couple. We have something to offer. And so here's my encouragement to you. Start by learning to share your expectation. Just start by that. Just sharing what you think.
Sundays are obviously a big day for us. It's our Super Bowl Sunday. It's our big day of the week. And we want to be prepared. We want to be ready when we get here. And it's our outreach to the community. It's a big day for us. And we noticed that Sunday mornings at home were getting really stressful. And we would be running late, trying to get out the door. Kids are frustrated. Things aren't going well every Sunday. There was just issues, it seemed like. And so we started doing this thing that we call our huddle. On Saturday night, we'd have a huddle. And Saturday night huddle looks like all of us, all 4 of our kids and us in the living room, talking about the next morning. What are you wearing? So go get your clothes picked out, everything, get it laid out on the couch. Here's what time we're leaving in the morning. We do oatmeal every Sunday morning for this reason. So we do overnight oatmeal, so it's prepped. Like, who's making oatmeal? Even us. We'll get our clothes laid out. And it's very clear for each of us who's going to help with Evelyn or who's going to get her teeth brushed or all the details. Everything is laid out in our huddle. So Sunday morning comes and we're on top of things. And we've done this for maybe 6 or 8 months now. And it's made a really, really big difference. But it's just, we found that out when things weren't working, we had to have a game plan.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's just strategy. It's coming together on the same page, and then you have power. You have agreement. It's amazing how it works. And so I want to encourage you to start this way. When you have an expectation, learn how to just share it. So, for example, Jayme and I started doing this, and it's really helpful. If we're going to go to a party or a celebration or go somewhere, on the way there, you just share your expectation. So, say I want to get home early. Say it's a Saturday night, something like that. Hey, just so you know, I would love to be home by 9. It's just something that's kind of what I see tonight. Don't know what you're thinking. And just learning to say that. And as we begin to delve into this, it's amazing how long I've gone without just saying that kind of stuff. I think it, and I expect it, but I don't say it. And so we're sitting at the party or whatever at 9:15, and then what do? You start insinuating. You okay?
I'm over here talking with everyone, completely clueless.
I'm fine. What's wrong? Nothing. We've all been there. And what is it? I had an expectation, and she's clueless. So she's like mayor of the city. Meet everyone there, right? Tell her your birthday. She'll remember it. She will. But it's an expectation. It's just learning to say, hey, here's kind of what I'm thinking. And then she'll respond back, oh, that's interesting. I was kind of thinking this or that. Maybe she's like, well, I would like to do like 10 or 10:30. You know what? I'll meet you in the middle. Let's do 10. Cool. We're on the same page. And then you know what? That gets communicated with mercy, because you might be at the party and you might meet 2 people that just blow your socks off, and you want to keep talking to them till 11. And so we're merciful because our expectation didn't even happen the way we thought it would. So we're merciful. We're good, right? We're good. We have mercy in our communication. Relationships that are saturated in mercy. But it's learning to just say it first. Communication takes yielding. It takes yielding. Who loves the guy on the interstate or the girl that doesn't yield? Anyone love that person? Are you that person in your relationship? The one that won't yield? Communication takes yielding. We're going to yield to one another in our communication and in sharing our expectations. It's a big deal. And so what this does is keep us from turning against each other in hard times and really standing together in whatever's going on.
And it's going to be in the small things. Like,
yes.
You don't go to the Super Bowl by yourself. You take a season, and it's a bunch of little things along that season. And so I guess my thought is just don't deceive yourself, because it really is in the small things. And we're going to work on that the rest of our life, the rest of our marriage. There's going to be small things that will continually come up. But the more you learn to communicate, the easier those get.
And it's really fun to have mercy in the small things. Like, if you'll start to communicate in the small things with mercy, it's amazing how much momentum starts to pick up inside your relationships. I mean, like as simple as, hey, would you mind taking the garbage out? No, I got it. You're awesome. Thank you. That sounds silly, but it creates momentum. It creates communication where it's like, thanks. You're awesome too. No, you're awesomer. Really? Are you saying what I think you're saying? No, you're not. Oh, okay. learning to communicate with mercy in the small things, it really starts to build momentum. And so if you show me a healthy marriage, I'll show you two people who are in pursuit of one another. A healthy marriage is two people who are in pursuit of one another. But communication is how you pursue each other. Men, it's not in the bedroom. Communication is how you pursue one another. God set it up that way. Communication is pursuit. And so in that, you might have the question, well, who leads the conversation? Who leads a conversation? You ever thought of that? It's the listener. You ever had somebody talking to you and they couldn't tell that you quit listening 10 minutes ago? Isn't that a hard feeling? It's just like, doesn't matter if I look at the floor, the car, somebody else, the sky, my fingernails. They keep talking. Like they should, like the listener controls the conversation, or it should be that way. And so I want to help you with this. We got a scripture that helps us in this area of how important listening is. How important it is to listen. James chapter 1 verse 19 speaks right to this out of the Bible. And he says this, understand this, my dear brothers and sisters, you must all be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry, which I think is really interesting. Like somebody said, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth because he wanted you to do more listening than you do talking, right? Be slow to speak and quick to listen. Notice what anger's connected to. Anger's connected to too much talking. Anger's connected to talking too fast. There's actually a scripture that says you're a fool if you talk without listening. And many times the anger inside of our relationships is the fact that we didn't listen. We didn't listen intently. We just started talking. We just responded. And now we're just on this talking level and nobody's listening. Nobody's actively listening. See, if we want to actively listen, it takes empathy. Empathy is the ability to feel what you're feeling. Not just hear it and it falls to the ground, but I actually engage in what would that feel like? What they're expressing right now, what would that feel like? And so if you feel like you're angry, it's connected to the fact that you're talking without listening. And so let's listen with empathy, engage in that, and then when we speak, it will actually add life to the conversation.
We have a saying with our kids that you tell the girls this a lot, learn to listen, listen to learn. And I think of this just with husbands and wives, that when I come to Jason or when your wife comes to you and asks you questions, it's not like she's interrogating you. It's not like she's trying to be a private investigator. She really wants to hear your heart, and she wants to hear your heart on situations that she doesn't know, and that's why she's asking you. And so instead of or thinking that she's out to, he'll say, or like think I'm nosy or something like that. It's like, no, I just really want to hear. I want to hear what's inside. I want to hear what you have to offer. Like the treasure box we talked about last week. There's treasure, and they want to dig into it. And so don't blow your wife off when those situations come up, but speak to her, because that's how she's learning you. That's how she wants to learn who you are and what's going on there.
Yeah, that's good. Women connect through conversation. That's why they ask so many questions. And I can say as a man, yeah, you feel interrogated because we don't connect that way. We connect on just facts. Just give me the facts. Okay, the truck's red, it's a Ford. It's okay, great, thanks. That's all I need. I don't need to know anything else about it. It's just factual. But women connect by asking questions. A lot of them. But that's how they're discovering you. That's how they're figuring out who you are and how you tick and how can we do this as a team? And most of the time, just because the way God made women, they want to know how I can come up and undergird you and strengthen you. I'm just trying to figure out, how do I help you? How do I help you win? But if we take that as interrogation, men, we will turn off the very thing that God's given us for strength. And so I know that's hard, and I know how awkward that feels in that spot, but I really want to encourage you to not take that as interrogation. Learn to connect back. Learn to connect back. You'll be glad you did. And so if we're in a place that we can say, well, I've shared my expectations, I've told them what I want, well, then we have to saturate it with mercy. You just have to keep doing it. And you have to find better ways to do it. And you have to find clearer ways to communicate it. But the goal is let's be couples that have marriages that are saturated in mercy. You missed it. You didn't get it? Let me try a different way. You didn't get that? Let's try a different way. You didn't get that? Let's team up and figure out a different way. Saturate them in mercy because they're too important to just let fall by the wayside. It's going to take investment. Leave room for your spouse to fail. Like, seriously. Leave room for them to fail. Like, where did we ever start expecting perfection? Especially in the people that we married and vowed our lives to. Let them fail. Let them fail. And my encouragement to you is when they do, learn to be the strength in that moment. Like, how can I strengthen you in this? How can I do something differently to uphold you in this moment? Here's something I think we fall into, especially as Americans. You're not looking for the right person, or you didn't get the wrong person. You're not looking for your soulmate. I just got to find my soulmate. I just have to find my soulmate. My soulmate will make everything all better. Do you know why we like soulmate? Because we think, I'm going to find somebody just like me. You know why? Then I don't have to change because they're just like me. No, God's going to give you someone no one like you, and it will change you. Isn't that right? Anyone out there? Come on, marriages, help me out. Yeah, that's right. I'm not who I used to be. Because it changes us. That's what it's all about. And so if we get caught in this thing where I'm trying to find the right person, or I'm trying to search the world for my soulmate, or maybe I didn't get my soulmate, now what? We're going to be frustrated. Your soulmate is made. Your soulmate is made. You make your soulmate through communication, through engaging one another's hearts. If you want your spouse's heart, you got to learn to speak to it. And through trials, through joys, through hardship, through pain, you'll communicate through those and you'll start to realize we're making our soulmate. There's no one else on the planet that I'd rather talk to than you about this. There's no one else on the planet that I'd want to stand with but you in this. Because we make our soulmate through communication and through investing.
So if you're married or plan on being married, I just encourage you to enjoy the journey.
Right.
It might seem long. Some days might seem longer than others, but enjoy the journey, enjoy the little things. Jayme Evans said the other night, you have a 100% chance of success in marriage. And I love that because we do, and it's up to us. So do what you can do to make it fun, to make it exciting, and enjoy the journey.
That's right. You know, the strongest thing you have together is your communication. It really is. And I'm just going to challenge you as much as I can to start today. If you're not somebody that's well at sharing your expectation, or if you haven't been good at putting it out there, start doing it and do it mercifully. I think you'll be amazed at the connection that starts to happen. And here's what I've learned. The number one thing is that your spouse ain't against you. They just don't know what you're thinking. They don't know what you're thinking. And so open that up. You'll be so glad you did. I want to help you with one more scripture that I love this scripture. I just kind of feel like it ties it all together. It's in Colossians chapter 3, verse 14. And it says this, above all these, above everything, above all else, higher than anything, the most important thing you can do, put on love. Put on love, which binds everything together. Look at this word, in perfect harmony. That's an awesome word. Is your marriage harmonious? Do you have harmony in your marriage, or do you feel like two clashing cymbals? Two out-of-tune guitars trying to play a song together. No, put on love. And love's not like mushy-gushy, like, that's not it. That word is selfless. That word is humility. That word's humble. Put that on. That word's listening. That word is yielding. Put these on, just like you did clothes today. Put it on. Put it on. I'm going to choose humility. I'm going to choose yielding today. I'm going to choose to listen today. I'm going to put that on because that will create harmony. That's what will give us harmony. And when we have harmony in our relationships, I think this is awesome. We make a sound that the world needs. There will never be another couple like you two. Ever. Only you have what you have as a couple. And you make a sound, you make an expression that no one else on the planet can make. Do it in harmony. Be in harmony by putting on love. And here's the thing about love is it's not a feeling, it's a decision. You're never going to feel it. You're never going to wake up and go, you know what, I just feel like yielding today. I just feel like listening. I just feel like being really humble today. You know, I just feel like taking the last seat. You don't feel it. It's a decision that makes you feel really good. So I encourage you to decide it. Folks, if you want your spouse's heart, you got to learn to speak to it. You got to learn to speak to it. That's my challenge today. I'm going to leave you with that. Learn to speak to your spouse's heart, and you'll have it. You'll be amazed at what's in there. Amen? Nice communication. Woohoo! Set it back. So Wednesday night, 6 o'clock, we're going to talk about being naked in marriage. Like the men just woke up. Huh?
Okay, so all the men will be here Wednesday night. Women, it's not just physically naked. We'll say that.
Yeah, good job. Thank you. Would you stand up with us today? Man, we appreciate you so much.